JJ, welcome to Breakdown. Today is March 3rd, 2022. One of us has been away for a while. One has been stuck here in Michigan dealing with the beautiful cold, and someone was on Bourbon Street. And I hope I got some bourbon brought back or something. But anyway, JJ, welcome to Breakdown. You ready to talk some SEC football, basketball? You ready to do it?
Ready to do it. Back from SEC country.
Let's do it. Okay, JJ, what you want to start with first? Football or basketball?
I think it's March, so I think basketball might be the let's have that be the prime time event and start with football.
Okay, football it is. The NFL scouting combine is going on right now. Uh, there was over 200 and some players, 325 players invited.
Yeah.
What conference did good with the invites?
Well, I think the conference that had two schools represented in the national championship game.
That'd be the SEC.
Yeah, that team also is well represented in Indianapolis.
The SEC got 82 of the 325, however many they got. SEC has roughly 24%, 23
25 statistically, right?
in that neighborhood
Yeah.
of the players there. The Big Ten has 54 of the players, roughly 16%.
Yeah.
Uh,
Second place in the conference standings.
Among conference, that's right. Among the non-Power Five teams, the SEC was still first because the non-Power Five conferences had 80 players.
And that includes all the group of five teams and all the Division 2 and 3 players.
It does.
Combined, so.
It does. JJ, what players from the SEC or Big Ten stand out for you? That's at the combine.
Well, normally you'd go with the quarterbacks, but I think this year being a very highly notorious receiver draft, I think for me it's Traylon Burks from Arkansas. That's one of the main players that stand out to me.
That is, for me, that's the biggest player that stands out. He got measured today. He hasn't run the 40 or did the weights or anything like that.
And do you know if he's going to or not?
I know he's going to do 40
Oh, okay.
because he's been training for it.
Yeah. I think he'll do pretty well in that.
Uh,
Just a long enough distance. I mean, he has he has that long distance speed.
he's an athlete. Right now, he's projected to be I've seen anywhere from 8 to 20 in the draft. Some people think that once he gets to the combine, he might even move up a little bit.
Yeah.
But time will tell.
Yeah, he's a big body, and a lot of people I've seen compare him to AJ Brown and the Tennessee Titans.
Okay, JJ, the SEC, as I said, had 82 schools. Georgia had the most, 14, and next
The
was
national champion, Georgia.
that's true.
Bulldogs.
And the runner-up, Alabama, had 11.
Who was also the runner-up in the championship.
And also in the SEC, LSU had 9, Texas A&M had 9. All of those teams had more than the highest team in the Big Ten.
Which was Michigan, who was
Michigan tied with Penn State
Yeah. Michigan tied with Penn State.
for 8. Talk about any of those players. You mentioned Traylon Burke from Arkansas, and I'm exceedingly high on him. If he stays healthy, JJ, he will do some things that a receiver hasn't done since Jerry Rice. But he has had some issues with staying healthy at Arkansas, and JJ laughed at that.
Well, people argue Cooper Kupp just had the best season that NFL receivers had potentially
Okay.
of all time, and it's funny that you say that.
Okay, that's okay. Jerry Ruff, Jerry Rice did it for numerous years,
Okay,
for multiple years,
that's true.
and that's why I mentioned him. You started out with quarterbacks. There's no quarterback from the Big Ten at the combine, JJ.
I
No
won.
one invited,
No.
but SEC only had one. So neither conference actually stood out at the quarterback position among NFL eligible players.
Well, neither conference is graduating or you know, having quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks leave early. A lot of returning quarterbacks are coming back to
Okay.
the conference.
All right. What about the Big Ten? Michigan and Penn State had the most, more than Ohio State. That's a surprise. Ohio State had 7, and Penn State and Michigan has 8. Anyone stand out at either of those schools?
Well, absolutely. Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan.
Yes.
He absolutely stands out.
Did he hurt himself in the playoffs, or how much did he hurt himself in the playoffs?
Yeah, he looked pretty bad against Georgia, if we're being honest.
No.
He, their offensive line looked like the team that should have won the offensive line awards, and their defensive line conversely just destroyed Michigan, the team that did win the award for best offensive line. So, he didn't do well, but I think he still could potentially go number 1 overall. So I don't
Ooh.
think.
Ahead of the guy from Oregon.
Oh, Kayvon Thibodeau's been dropping.
Has he now? I did not
Yeah.
know that. Why has he been dropping?
Well, people are questioning if he has the motor. A lot of comparisons to Jadavion Clowney and
Ooh, okay.
just like
Clowney is still decent.
yeah,
He
no,
didn't
no,
live
no,
up to his height.
yeah, but Clowney was decent, but he was in a draft that had what's his name from Khalil Mack.
Ah,
You know, he went fifth, and I can't remember. There was another guy that was just dominating that would have went ahead of Clowney. So Kayvon Thibodeau, I mean, he's still a solid top 10 pick and
okay.
probably top 5 in a lot of my drafts that I've seen, but you don't hear his name as much.
Do you have this guy from Michigan going number 1?
No, I probably would not. I mean, he did. People don't. People say that he's not like a top. Like he doesn't have like the highest ceiling as it pertains to edge rushers. He's not like a Chase Young that went a top 2, and he's not like either Bosa or you know
Okay.
either Watt, T.J. Watt who went 30th, and J.J. Watt who also wasn't a top 10 pick. He doesn't have like the strength to do that. But what's so good about him is his high floor. But I would be a little more adventurous. I think if I had the number 1 pick.
If you were the Detroit Lions, what would you go after? And I know
Well,
this is college, not pros, but if you were the Detroit Lions,
I would take him 100% if he's available number 3. Just
Okay.
because I mean he's from Michigan.
okay.
He probably sells tickets. I mean people already know who he is. They have like feelings about him. What be it good or bad within the state. And I think he's a good enough player to go top 3. I do think he's a good enough player, but I think there's other players that are better.
Jay, are there any particular players that you want to talk about? Anyone overrated, underrated that you might believe, or just anything before we I don't want to spend too much time on football,
Oh yeah.
but I do want to give it. I do want to give this combine some recognition.
Well, I don't know if Ohio State's group of receivers, be it Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson, I'm not sure. I never had. So I do recognize that, and I'm not trying to disrespect them in that way, but I'm not as impressed like with their stature necessarily.
Well, I'm gonna say this: the way the game has evolved for receivers, the body that Traylon Burks has is amazing. If he stays healthy, I can't see anything or anyone stopping him. That's just my own personal opinion. Uh, but he has had some issues with being healthy. He has. So hopefully, maybe the NFL can get his body to a point where it can withstand more of this or whatever.
Yeah.
JJ, among the again, the most position wise, the most players draft invited to the combine are DBs, defensive backs. There's 61 defensive backs invited, and then next is the offensive lineman. This was true last year. It's true this year. I didn't go back further, but my guess is that's probably has been the trend lately. Defensive back and offensive linemen being the most position players picked. And quarterbacks, only 16 quarterbacks at the combine this year.
Yeah, I would also throw in defensive linemen too,
Okay,
just because
but there's a 48 defensive linemen invited to the draft.
yeah, but just over the years, I would think like a lot of
Okay,
defensive linemen have been drafted because those are the most important positions outside of the quarterback. There's only going to be one quarterback per team
true.
that starts.
Be, be, before we move from football, is there anyone at the combine that you think will help themselves tremendously, hurt themselves tremendously? I mean, I know they haven't actually started doing a lot of the things yet, but if you had to predict, and there maybe not be no one.
Well, how about Kenny Pickett to step outside of the Big Ten or SEC and go to the
Pittsburgh,
ACC?
okay,
He has reportedly 8.5-inch hands, which would be the smallest
small,
hands of any quarterback in the league. I think, which includes backups and everything. So not just the starters. So I mean, there's been a lot of talk about his hand size, and he didn't want to get him measured at the Senior Bowl. And he had his thing saying about how he was double jointed and there's all of this and all of that. But he did have 30 fumbles. I believe it was last year, or it was either last year or over his college career. And either one was pretty high, but only 12 were lost. But fumbles, you can't predict. You know,
you don't want to turn the ball over in the NFL.
no, you know.
Well, JJ, we might revisit the combine later on, and the combine and the draft kind of go hand in hand to me, but the draft is not until April. But we're going to move on to basketball now, if that's okay by you.
It's always okay to talk about basketball.
Okay, Big Ten. Wisconsin has sewn it up.
Yeah, they've claimed at least a share of the Big Ten conference championship.
That's a humongous surprise to me, but as I said before, all they seem to do is win, 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 no matter what.
I mean, that's a humongous surprise for me too. As we've discussed, I've been underrating Wisconsin.
They closed their season out with Nebraska.
Oh,
Nebraska on a 2-game win streak.
yeah, who did Nebraska just beat? They beat somebody.
They beat Ohio State.
Yeah. Okay. I watched a
Basketball.
little bit of that, but did you
Bas-
see?
I did not see much of it. I did see some of it. I didn't think it was going to be a game, so I really didn't watch it.
Yeah, I didn't see this tip off. I wasn't like there at tip off, obviously, but once I saw Nebraska was,
Yeah, I saw.
they beat them bad too.
I saw the middle of it, and like right before halftime, Nebraska was leading, but they were not. I thought Ohio State was going to come back, but I
At
was wrong.
Ohio State, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
anyway.
Ohio State, now they got two teams in the state of Michigan to close out their season. They got Michigan State tonight. Michigan State goes to Ohio State. Michigan State is in need of a win. They had sandwiched in there the Purdue win, but if you take the Purdue win out in their last 7, 8 games, they've not looked very well at all.
Yeah, most recently they lost to Michigan, and it wasn't just the how bad they lost to them. They lost to them pretty big. They gave up 33 points to Hunter Dickinson, and that was just Hunter Dickinson won't be first or second team all Big Ten. It's
Yeah. Right now, Michigan State is tied with Michigan for 7th in the SEC. Michigan has to play their last game of the year is against Ohio State. I think it's at Ohio State as well, I believe.
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm going to ask you for your Final Four in the Big Ten pretty soon, but let's talk about some games. Tonight, Michigan has to play Iowa.
Yeah, that should be
Iowa
good.
comes into Michigan State. I mean, into Michigan. I'm sorry.
The state of Michigan. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you see the Iowa Michigan game tonight?
Well, Iowa will have the best player on the court in Keegan Murray. They will
Better than Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
better than Hunter Dickinson. They will be looking to avenge a loss at home. Oh, it was at home to Michigan, unexpected when Michigan needed it desperately. But Michigan, I don't know if Michigan necessarily needs to win this game because it's not going to be a bad loss. But they're on the bubble, and when you're on the bubble, the best thing you can do is win. Iowa is not on the bubble, so
Well, right now, with games being played today and then Saturday and Sunday,
yeah.
Wisconsin, like you said, is wrapped up at least a tie. And second right now is Illinois, and third is Purdue, and tied for fourth is Iowa and Ohio State.
Yeah.
It's I know you want to be at least fourth to get that double bye in the tournament. Ohio State got these two Michigan teams to win. What would they need to do in order to get that double bye? Would they need to split them, or would they need to win them both?
I think it depends. I mean, they're tied with Iowa, so if Iowa loses to Michigan, that gives them a little bit of a cushion. But Ohio State should probably want to win both of those games just for seeding purposes once they get to the NCAA tournament, because that's like they just took a quadrant 3 loss
Yeah.
to Nebraska. If they're not quadrant 4, I don't know. Like that's how bad Nebraska is. They're the worst team in the Big Ten.
But they're on a 2-game winning streak.
They've won 3 all season.
They're 3-16
In the conference.
in the Big Ten, and they're 9-21
Overall.
JJ, bubble teams. Is Michigan State a bubble team?
Yeah, I mean, you think that they get off the bubble with that huge win over Purdue, but then Purdue, goes on a losing streak, loses to Wisconsin right after that, and
They lost 2.
yeah,
So-
and then they lose
so-
to Michigan.
So I'm going to say there's 3 bubble teams in the Big Ten.
Okay.
I'm going to say Michigan State, Michigan, and Indiana.
Then Indiana lost to. I think Indiana might just be on the wrong side of the bubble. I think it might be just time to.
So if Indiana makes it, so you're saying Indiana is less likely to make it up to 3 that I just mentioned?
Yeah, they just lost to Rutgers.
Rutgers is going to make the tournament.
Yeah, maybe. I think Rutgers is still in the bubble.
You think they're in
Rutgers
the bubble?
Yeah, and so does a lot of bracketologists.
Right now, there are 6 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they are.
I,
They've won all of 17 games.
I have them in, but we'll see. But between Michigan and Michigan State, will one of them have to play a play-in game?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Michigan State cannot lose to Maryland at home this Sunday. I'm going to be at the game. I would be surprised if they did lose, but I've seen them lose to Northwestern. I've seen them lose to.
I cannot see them losing this game that they need desperately.
They do need it.
Even if they lose to Ohio State tonight on the road, they come back and win against Maryland. They'll be okay.
Michigan State doesn't have like an established hierarchy this late into a season, which is not normal.
Okay, JJ, the Big Ten. We're going to ask you later for your pick. Let's talk about Southeast Conference, the SEC.
Okay.
Auburn is number 1. Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee are tied for 2nd.
Yes, they are.
They're both 1 game behind Auburn. And Alabama is in 5th, Alabama and Florida. The SEC, those teams.
They're distant.
Correct. LSU, South Carolina, and Texas A&M are all tied for 8th.
Yeah. LSU just had a big win.
LSU just had a big loss last night.
Oh, I mean to Arkansas.
Yes, they did. They
Yeah.
lost by 1.
Yeah,
They lost by 1. It was a very, very close game. It was in Fayetteville, and they lost.
Yeah, I watched that game, and I'm not going to comment on the officiating or anything like that.
That was, well, you know what? A W is a W. Jalen fouled out of that game. Jalen Williams fouled out. And Arkansas still won. He fouled out about 4 minutes to go.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but Arkansas still won. He's their most valuable player.
Yeah.
Out like that. Okay, JJ. I want to. You know what? I'm gonna ask you for your Final Four. Not your Final Four. Your top 4 in the SEC. Because as I just said, Auburn is 1 game ahead of Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And I will say this, Arkansas has beaten Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee this year.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with your top 4, and then I'm going to ask you to do a whole lot of explaining. So who you guys your number 1 SEC team that will finish the season? And the SEC basically only have Saturday's game. They don't have any more games except the games on Saturday. Arkansas is at Tennessee. Kentucky is at Florida. Uh, Auburn is playing. I think Missouri is Georgia. They're playing a team that they should win easily. Auburn is,
Yeah, but Auburn hasn't been looking really great lately.
especially on the road. But they're undefeated at home.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the four teams in the top four, all of them are undefeated at home except for one. One team has a 1 point loss at home to Vanderbilt, and I don't want to say that's not the Razorbacks. But
Yeah.
Auburn is they will be at home Saturday, uh, which I was just give me your who you think gonna finish the season in the SEC 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Well, Auburn does have a 1 game lead, and they have the easiest schedule. I mean, so I'm gonna stick with them at one. They've been
Okay.
fading down the stretch,
They
but
have.
I still believe in Bruce Pearl. I think he's a good coach. I believe in the talent. I believe in Walker Kessler. I believe in Bryce Smith. And I do believe that their guards will get it together. So I'm going to put them number one. That Tennessee Arkansas game is going to be huge. Whoever wins that is going to be in pole position to, be in second. And that'll put Kentucky in third, assuming they don't lose to Florida later this weekend.
In Florida, desperately need a win to help them to help their bubble chances. I don't think that's a given for Kentucky right there. The SEC is finishing up with some tough games. Uh, so you're telling me that the loser between the Ark. Well, no, you tell me. Tell me again. Repeat who your top four finishers in the SEC are.
Well, I never finished. I just got to Auburn, and then
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's so close between Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee. I think everything hinges on the Tennessee Arkansas game in Knoxville. Man, I don't want to be a homer. I'm going to go with Arkansas Razorbacks number two.
I have been trying to get you to give them a better position all year long, and then the right before the very last game, you might have.
It's hard to win on the road in the SEC.
You might have jinxed them, JJ.
Well,
And they're going on the road Saturday,
it's hard to win on the road in the SEC. Everyone knows.
and yet you're picking them to win
Yeah, I'm picking them to win
on the road
on the road.
at Tennessee. I'm gonna say this about Tennessee. Tennessee, I think it's the younger of the four teams.
Oh yeah, they have a freshman point guard. He's going to be a lottery pick.
They're the younger. Arkansas is actually an older team. Kentucky is an older team.
Both teams have a lot of transfers.
Yes. I sometimes I like to go with experience over youth when you come to these big games. I know the crowds in Tennessee is going to be huge. Arkansas against the last game against Tennessee, I think their short bench kind of hurt them. I watched Jalen Williams in that game. He was toast. They took him out with 8 minutes to go and put him back in with 4 minutes. But at that 8 minutes, from 10 minutes to 8 minutes, he was toast.
You need a backup big man. You need a backup big man to just have none.
Well, they brought Johnson in, but
Johnson did play him.
he was toast. Their short bench. They just had a tough game against LSU where he fouled out. The Tennessee game again. He's not gonna be able to play with a high level of energy for 40 minutes. So they're going to figure out something there. But who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, Arkansas gave up 30 points to Sheway against Kentucky, and they still won the game.
Yeah.
So, they can give up the points to the big man, and they can still win. But they got to have their guards cooking.
Yeah.
So you're going Auburn, Arkansas,
Kentucky,
Tennessee. Okay, very good. Will Florida get into the dance?
No, they don't lose to Kentucky.
And they won't make the dance.
I don't believe so.
Unless they do super well in the tournament.
Yeah, basically.
There's a team in the tournament that I think LSU and Texas A&M can do well in the SEC tournament. I really do.
Any particular reason?
A&M lost 9 in a row this year in the conference after they won like 3 or 4 in a row in the conference. Then they lost 9 in a row. I think those 9 in a row was an aberration. Since those 9 in a row, they have played much, much, much better. They're on a 3-game winning streak right now.
Yeah, I mean, Buzz Williams was expected to do a lot better than he's done, and a lot of people think he's a really good coach.
Well, right now, I think LSU and A&M have underperformed their talent. That's what I'm trying to get
I
at.
agree with you with LSU, but
I think A&M has
okay,
to.
okay.
A&M has to. Let's move on over to the Midwest and do the Big Ten. We already got who the number one is. Give me your 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I don't know if Wisconsin has the highest ceiling, but they've claimed at least a share, so they're number one.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I still think Purdue has the highest ceiling, but I think Illinois is more consistent, so I'm gonna put Illinois too.
Okay.
I've liked Illinois all year, and
You,
Purdue. Well, were you gonna say something?
now, I'm gonna say you have been high on Illinois, uh, and I like their talent. I think Illinois is better equipped to perform in the NCAA tournament than they are in the Big
You know
Ten.
what? You're right. Once they get out of conference, I do think that they will match up a little bit more favorably. I think they'll have a little different officiating. I think they'll have different matchups. I do think that they will do better. So maybe that's what I'm just seeing and projecting.
Okay.
But I'm still gonna put Illinois number two because they're in second place in the conference right now.
Right now, they
Um,
are.
Purdue, man, you know what? Maybe you're right about Jaden Ivey not being a killer or whatever. I don't, because I just they need someone that'll close games, and they seem to just be in a lot closer games than they need to be, and they've been on the wrong side of that in the past couple.
Purdue is going to scare some people with their hype.
Oh yeah,
But the problem with Purdue is you said it numerous times right here to me is their defense.
yeah.
You get in the tournament, you can get some teams down and you let them come back. Their momentum just might take them over that next edge. So that's my issue with Purdue is their defense.
You know, you're right about that. I was reading a statistic that every team that's won a championship in the last it was either 5 or 10 years has had a top 20 adjusted defensive rating, and Purdue's is like in the 70s or 80s or something like that. But like every single one has been top 20, and all but one was top 15, and it was like one aberration. So it's a pretty consistent indicator of future success as it pertains to like.
Yeah, once the dance gets here, I'm apt to pick Illinois ahead of Purdue. But right now you got Wisconsin, Illinois, Purdue. The fourth team. Right now, Iowa and Ohio State are tied for fourth. Ohio State is on a 2-game losing streak, and Iowa is on a 4-game winning streak.
I'm gonna go with the hot hand. I'm gonna stick with the Iowa Hawkeyes. I think that they go into Chrysler Arena and beat Michigan, and I think Keegan Murray is, if not the last first-team All-American, I think he's like the the highest vote getter for second-team All-American in the entire country. I think he's a great player, and went from like a 3-star recruit to lottery pick as a sophomore coming out.
So there you have it. The double byes for the Big Ten tournament that starts Wednesday is Wisconsin, Illinois, Purdue, and Iowa, according to JJ. And in the SEC, the 4 byes are pretty much set. I mean, they are set.
Alabama and Florida not catching.
Yeah, so Auburn, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee all have the byes. The order still could change a little bit, but they will all have that double bye.
And then the SEC, you want to avoid being the 3 seed because the 3 seed plays at 9 o'clock at night.
Ooh.
And then the next day they play. I can't remember if it's early noon, but they play.
If they win.
Assuming they win. Yeah. But you want to avoid being a 3 seed.
Let me ask you this question: is the game Saturday between Tennessee and Arkansas? Is that an important game?
It's the pivotal game, I think, for both teams.
Why?
Because I think.
What would it say about the loser, and what would happen to the loser?
Well, Arkansas needs to win it just because Arkansas has sustained some brutal losses.
1.5.
No.
I would say 1.5 brutal loss.
Did they lose like 4? Was it 4 games in a row? 5 games in a row that they lost?
I think they lost. I know they lost 3 in a row. 3 conference games in a row.
Maybe it was like
maybe
4 or 5.
4 out of
they
No,
had
they
some.
lost. They lost to I almost said Warford. It was a team that is not a Power Five,
I know you're.
not a basketball team, not a really low rated
I
school.
know you're talking about.
It wasn't Warford, but they did lose that game.
Yeah,
But I will still say this: they they've won 14 of the last 15, I believe,
that's the Missouri.
and the one loss was by 1 point.
Yeah, no, they've been playing incredibly well the
Okay.
past 15 games.
Okay.
But the problem for them, for their resume, is that the committee looks at more than the past 15 games. They're going to look at the brutal losses early to start the season. And it counts.
If they lose to Tennessee, they will not be seated any lower than 4 or 5.
You know, I'm kind of making a devil's advocate argument right now, because I actually do think it's more important for Tennessee and Kennedy Chandler. He's a freshman point guard, and I think for freshmen, if the leader on your team is going to be a freshman, I think you want the most advantages as possible. So I think going into it, you want the highest seedings that you can get in the SEC tournament, the highest seedings that you can get in the NCAA tournament. I think that will benefit a guy who, might be hitting a wall soon if he had, I mean, he's been playing really well as of late, but the engine of their team is a freshman, where the engine of Arkansas's team is a guy that was just on their last Elite Eight.
Oh.
I was not
Yeah.
talking about Jalen Williams. I
You
was talking about
no,
J.D.
no
Milton.
pay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
who's been stepping up defensively. He's been really initiating, getting the ball to other players. His 8 assists against Kentucky were huge.
JJ, I didn't mention this earlier. We're going to get ready to shut down pretty soon. But the SEC tournament, most of the time, it's in Nashville, Tennessee. I think it's been in Atlanta once and it's been in Florida once. But this year it's in Florida for the second time.
Yeah.
Will that help Florida's chances, or how much will that help Florida's chances getting off the bubble?
It might help people just to be close to home. Florida doesn't have much of a what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have much of a. They have a pretty indifferent basketball fan base, is what I'm going to say.
Okay. Well, one thing for sure, this year's SEC tournament will no longer be the Kentucky Invitation that it was for decades.
I'll take it. When it's in Nashville, it's just like a short 2-hour drive.
It's not the Kentucky Invitation. JJ, I'm about done with this week's SEC Big Ten Challenge. Anything you got right now you want to mention, talk about that I've omitted?
No, I think we've covered all our ground.
Very good. The next time we come back, we'll talk about the SEC and Big Ten tournaments.
Sounds good.
Until then, peace out. WPS, Whoop Pig Suey. See you next.